Now, the draft class that the Steelers are bringing in this year is pretty interesting. You get Derrick Harmon in the first round, which I thought he was the best defensive tackle in this draft class. You watch the film with him at Oregon. Not only was he good against the run, but the dude was a monster getting after the quarterback. And when I was reading scouting reports and comparisons for him, it was one scouting report that said this is your prototypical Steelers, Ravens kind of player. And if the Steelers would have passed on him 21st, I'm really confident the Ravens would have drafted him in the first round. And his comp has been Cam Hayward. And if the Steelers are getting Cam Hayward 2.0 and Derrick Harmon, if he can make an instant impact in year one, you're looking at what should be the best defensive line in football, considering the other factors: T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith off the edge. You get Kaleb Johnson in round three, Jack Sawyer, Will Howard with some of the other notable mid-round selections. Does this draft class help propel the Steelers further in the postseason than what we've seen them go? And if not, from a futuristic standpoint, 2, 3 years down the line, are the Steelers getting guys from this draft class that are going to be crucial pieces to them being back in a Super Bowl conversation?
I think Super Bowl's out of the question until you get a quarterback, frankly. Now maybe you get let's say best case scenario, Derek Harmon is Cam Hayward, Kaleb Johnson is the next what's a name? Who's a dude on the Chargers from a long time ago? Tomlin. Let's say Kaleb Johnson is LaDainian Tomlinson. Let's say who else do we get? Yahya Black, which is how you say his name, I guess, is a great depth piece. Let's say Jack Sawyer is TJ Watt 2.0. Then yeah, you've really bolstered up the defensive line of the trenches, but none of it matters if you don't got no quarterback. Now, let's say the Steelers get lucky and they do get a franchise quarterback in the next draft. Then I think it's going to be very helpful for him to have help on the defense with Derek Harmon, have help on the offense with Jalen Warren and Kaleb Johnson and Jack Sawyer as well. I think it's going to be a strong defense. I mean, you look at it, you got Cam Hayward. If you got a nose, it's going to be Keanu Benton. Your other defensive tackle is going to be Derek Harmon. Then you got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. You can't just go one on one for all five of those guys. You know, you're gonna have to chip in a running back for some help to handle them. And even then, that's gonna be a problem. I think best case scenario, they're gonna get the hell after the quarterback, which I'm intrigued to see. You know, if it's clear the Steelers are trying to pursue what the Eagles did to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And if this draft helps them get even closer to that, then I'd say it's a successful draft. Now, Super Bowl, let's get a quarterback first.
Yeah, and with the Caleb Johnson pick, my issue with him is he's no different from what you had in Najee Harris. He ran 4.58. He's not super explosive. There's not really a big gap in his game compared to what you had in Najee. If the offensive line is better, then he could be a lot better than what Najee Harris was. But Najee Harris could have been a lot better if he had a better offensive line. I just didn't understand the selection there when their whole philosophy, at least I thought going into this offseason, was they wanted to be more explosive. And even with the 1-2 punch between Kaleb Johnson and Jalen Warren, if you're relying on Jalen Warren, I think Jalen Warren is a pretty good role player for what the Steelers need him to be, a spark plug, be that change of pace back. But I much rather them have gone after a Woody Marks or a more dynamic back, somebody that was in that 4-4 range, not somebody that's running low 4 or low 4-5. And with Jack Sawyer, I like him a lot. I think he's really good against the run. I think he can turn into a pretty productive player. The Steelers normally do a really good job at drafting good pass rushers. Alex Highsmith was like a day 2, day 3 selection out of Charlotte. And, maybe expecting this draft class to propel this franchise to a Super Bowl level is overly ambitious. But, brother is just hoping that the Steelers can be playing in some meaningful games come playoff time outside of, being the first round exit and wild card round. So, I'm just jumping at the bit to finally have a real reason to be optimistic about this team. Does this draft class give me that? Are we walking away with like three, maybe four, like multi-year starters, maybe two or three of these guys turn into Pro Bowlers?
The guy I'm most the guy I'm most confident in is Derrick Harmon. Um, number one because I think he fills a hole day one. You just got rid of Montrevious Adams, and your only other guy there is Isaiah Loudermilk. Like, yeah, Derrick Harmon's going to go in there. He's probably going to ball day one. It's not like he's a quarterback where he's got to come in and learn how to dissect the defense. No, he's a defensive tackle.
Yeah,
You know
just
what
go out
coaches
there and
tell
blow
defensive
shit up.
tackles?
Blow shit up.
Exactly. Go get the quarterback. Go be a monster out there. So I think he's going to be productive day one. I think it's probably the most complete front seven in all of football. Well, okay, the Eagles are probably the most complete, but I think this will get the Steelers as close as you can to that in that conversation. We'll see if Cam can stay healthy. We'll see if TJ can stay healthy. I'm not too concerned about Alex Highsmith staying healthy. Didn't he just get hurt?
Yeah,
Regardless,
he did miss a little bit of time last season.
yeah, but regardless, if all those guys are healthy, then I think that's a defensive line that quarterbacks and offensive lines are going to be afraid of. They're going to want to get the ball out quick. And that's exactly how the Eagles beat Patrick effing Mahomes in the Super Bowl. They got after his ass because not all five guys can block that Eagles defensive line. I think that's clearly what the Steelers are trying to do. And if Derrick Harmon can be an absolute monster, then I'm excited to see what that defensive line does.